Hello, and welcome once again to Escaping Dystopia. My name is Wa, and I'll be your host. Today we continue our series on Decentralized Finance, DeFi. Today is a very exciting day. I've been wanting to do this for a little while. I've been working on this for a little bit. One of the things that's most difficult about getting into both computer science and accounting stuff is jargon. And because the same kind of words that you'll hear in other places, you'll hear in these places, and they'll mean completely different things. Decentralized finance is no different from the melding of those two things. You've got web development, you've got computer science, you've got this accounting stuff, you've got all these various terms being mixed together in a whole new way in things that have never existed before. Never existed for our species. And now they're here and they're doing stuff. That's what we're going to talk about today. Decentralized finance, terms you need to know, what those terms mean, and how to deal with them. Terms like automated market maker, an AMM, liquidity pools, centralized or decentralized exchanges, DEXs, again, DeFi itself, gas fees, staking, baking, farming. Big one we're going to cover today is impermanent loss, and something many people don't seem to think to exist, impermanent gain. One of the reasons I wanted to do this video is because there are not that many folks I've noticed who have a lifetime of experience working in financial institutions from a computer science perspective, and from a database perspective, and from a how do you actually implement that idea in code perspective. That's the perspective you're going to get if you watch this video, because that's my background. So I can explain some of these things to you from the perspective of someone who's had to explain similar things to other people for a long time. Oh yeah, I need to start doing this disclaimer, because I'm going to show you some stuff here. What I'm telling you today is not financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a robot pirate ninja. And so that's different. So don't do what I'm telling you to do if you think that I'm telling you to do stuff with your money. We'll talk about a little bit about the concept of money and value as we go through this, but your money is your money and your value is your value. Be very protectful of it. If you want to, you can look. I think you do this. I can put it here. There's like a link. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. I'm still learning the YouTube despite me being on it for like over a decade. Whatever, man. I was busy. Anyway. You can go here. We've got a video on talking about web wallets and stuff like that. This is our next in that series where we're going to talk more about the jargon. So the first thing that you need to know about decentralized finance, I think, is that we're now moving to this next level, right? We're beyond the notion that money exists. Now people are going to trade it and do things with it. So a big part of decentralized finance is setting up and supplying those markets. How that works is this thing called an AMM. An AMM is an automated market maker. This is at the core of nearly all decentralized finance applications that involve swapping tokens for one another. You'll find that I use the term tokens and coins somewhat interchangeably. Some people don't do that. Some languages don't do that. The terms have been so traded back and forth. Generally, it's considered a coin if it's the core way that you pay gas fees, which I'll talk about in a little bit, for a network, while as tokens tend to be the products of contracts released onto a network. Some core networks call their coins tokens, so it gets a little confusing, and sometimes I get a little confused. Don't worry about coins versus tokens so much. Generally, 1 equals 1. What is an AMM? An automated market maker is a piece of software that connects buyers and sellers. The way that it does this is through the use of a liquidity pool. Now, normally if you go to an order book exchange, you will say, I would like to buy X of Y and I'll pay Z. Right? I would like to buy this much of that token and I'll pay this price, and you put it out there. and someone else says, you know what, I will fill that order and I'll give you this much of that token for that price and we'll exchange. This is what's called an order book. Order book exchanges are the more common type of exchange. For many in the US, you'll have a weird experience going into this because Coinbase, the way Coinbase works is kind of like, it's a weird combination because on Coinbase, you can basically swap any token for any token and it will just let you do that and then charge you a fee. What it's actually doing is making market orders for each one of those and then trading them behind the scenes, and then it's using that pretty large 0.5% fee to cover the slippage or the swap. If you go to Coinbase Pro, you'll see that everything's order book based. And there you put down your order, someone waits to fill it, and then depending on your volume, the fee changes. And that's pretty common for centralized exchanges. Now, Binance and some of the others do many different things. The way that Crypto.com works, which is another centralized exchange. Decentralized exchanges don't work like that. Decentralized exchanges generally, and now again there's a couple order book decentralized exchanges. I personally haven't really used much of them yet, but we'll talk about some of them when we get to that. And again, there's very few absolutes currently in this world because there is so much development going on and so many things are happening and so many things are changing. If I were to say, oh, there's no order book out there, when the reason that you don't see more order books for decentralized exchanges has to do with front running. And we'll get to this a little bit later. But one of the things that happens, the way that a decentralized exchange will work, is it's going to use this piece of software, this automated market maker, and then it's going to attach to a liquidity pool. These are both smart contracts. And you, as a buyer or seller, will say, hey, I would like to take this out of that pool, and I would like to put this other thing into that pool, right? And those two tokens in the pool then change. You get your order in, you get your order out, the pool rebalances, and the price changes. So there's no other person that has to fulfill your order. It's done automated by an automatic market maker. Now, these kind of things exist in the real world, and they also help to provide liquidity. Liquidity is a term that we'll talk about as well. Liquidity is the ability to turn one asset into another, the ability to transform it like water, to flow one way or another. That's the way I'm going to generally refer to it, but if you don't have liquidity for an asset, it's frozen. You can keep this metaphor going, and if it boils up and gets too hot, sometimes it can go away. But the ability to basically move from one asset to another. These are called liquidity pools because what you will generally do is pair one asset with another asset. You take, and this is in the most basic kind and most common liquidity pool. An automated market maker will use a liquidity pool to allow a trade to happen. Liquidity, as we know, is the ability to turn one asset into another. And in this case, what you'll do is you take 1/2, 50%, in the most basic example of a liquidity pool. 50% of one asset, 50% of another asset. You will combine them together. When you do this, you then get a new token that is called a pool token out of that. And when you start to do this, you will start to see in your wallet that instead of having the two other assets, you will then have a pooled token access. This pooled token represents your share of the pool. One of the things that's very important to understand, and this will come up a little bit later when we cover impermanent loss or impermanent gain, is the difference between amount versus value. And when you add your value to a liquidity pool, you pool that value. And so your token becomes a representation of that value, not of the tokens per se that make it up. Now this is the part that gets a little bit confusing for many people, because what you're providing is other people the ability to trade your tokens. You take your value, you put them in a pool, and someone else can pull them in and pull them out. There are risks and there are rewards to you doing so. And it's very important to remember that pool tokens are different than the underlying tokens. There has been a great deal of innovation lately over the last 6 months, a year. I mean, many of these protocols, which are now billion-dollar protocols, and when I say that, I'm not being facetious. Let's move into our sex versus DEX discussion. So a sex, which a CEX, I don't know, CEX, a centralized exchange, versus a DEX, a decentralized exchange. One of these is easy to say in English. The other, because English is weird, a CEX, I don't know, a SEX, a CEX versus a DEX. Centralized exchanges, as I mentioned, the liquidity is provided a lot easier. It's very easy to move from one token on the centralized exchange to any other token. Usually there is no concept of gas fees. You do pay transaction fees. And if you don't know what gas fees are, we're going to talk about those next. And one of the, by far, the biggest use and utility that one gets out of a centralized exchange is the fiat on and off ramp. The ability to deposit money from a bank, real money from a bank, and extract it from a bank. Now, the way that you connect from centralized to decentralized exchanges is through wallets. I talked about those here. You can go click here, listen to me rant about it there. Or whatever I do. I don't know. I talk about stuff in a fast and loud voice. So you use those wallets to move the value from a centralized exchange to your own wallet. And then you have the keys, right, which you're very careful with. You have your hardware wallet, which you use to really protect it, which is a good idea if you have a lot of value. And now you want to go to a decentralized exchange. Now, decentralized exchanges, let's go through a few of these real quick. These are some of the larger ones on the planet. This is QuickSwap. This is PancakeSwap. This is Osmosis. And this is SpookySwap, and this is Radium. You can see some very similar things between all of these, because all of these were pretty much based on Uniswap. I know. The themes in crypto are interesting. The way that global culture, and this is a global culture, has actually expressed itself through cuteness and mythical creatures is very fun. And the way that various blockchain ecosystems build these themes, and I'm not joking, so this SpookySwap, this is for the Phantom network. They're all like themes built around Halloween. I don't know. But I mean, this whole kind of theme. Osmosis is very interesting as well. This one is a lot of fun. Here you can see specifically what I'm talking about, pools, right? And we'll talk about this. We're going to go through a few of these dexes. Actually, this is what I wanted to talk about here. This is their number one pool. And you can see this one only has about $200 million worth of value in it. By the way, I'm not like trying to be facetious when I say that. That's how much value is locked in this pool right now. That's how much, and it shows you actually right down here. Let me get out of the way. Now you can see here that this pool is made up of 50% Atom and 50% Osmosis. Osmo is the token. And that equates to 2.7151 million atoms and 21 million Osmo tokens. The total value is here. Now, one of the things that you'll also find on most decentralized exchange. One of the things you should absolutely look for on any decentralized exchange is this stats right here, or their info page, right? And that info analytics is what they call it here on Spooky Swap. And again, you'll find that these, now on Spooky Swap, let me zoom in here. Yeah, you'll see like there is, that number is, that's in American English numbers. That's $500 million worth of value that is locked in pools. And then you can look here and you go under pairs, and you can see the various pairs that it's locked. Here's FTM and Boo. There's 93. Now, one of the things that you will notice as you go on to centralized, and as we get into specific ones, you'll see that they aren't quite as wide and deep as you may assume. And some of them are very different about this. Some are only around a couple tokens, and again, is exploding. So we're only going to cover in our series some of the more, I definitely am only going to share with you ones that I think are fully legitimate at a high level. There are a lot of other things down there. You don't need more than one of these, and that per really kind of ecosystem or blockchain, and we'll talk about that later. But so don't feel that you need to find a new random decentralized exchange to really take part in the rewards that are out there. So one of the things that you will definitely notice if you start to move around in the decentralized universe is that a lot of things really look like Uniswap, and a lot of things look like other things. And like this is Uniswap's info page. You've already seen a couple versions of that. This is their optimism page, by the way. This is one of the official L2s on Uniswap. You see there's only 40 million locked on Uniswap, by the way. But this is the same 3.44 billion locked. Uniswap is the big dog, but it's kind of stuck on ETH right now. And ETH, in our next subject, we're going to talk about gas fees. Ethereum is not useful right now because of gas fees. But you'll notice that everything looks similar. And this is partially why you may recognize this interface already. This is GitHub. This is Uniswap's interface. An open source interface for the Uniswap. Open source, again, means you can copy it, you can share it, you can do all sorts of things with it. You can fork it, and you can see over here on this other side here, you see this fork? This has been forked 2.4 thousand times, which is used both for development branches and also when you just copy it. And that's not, again, you need to understand, like this is how open source, this is how decentralized things work. This is how code works for computer stuff. You get a working piece of code, and if you want to share it in that manner and it doesn't have that kind of license, and you actively do, which is what the whole point of a lot of these decentralized things is, other people can copy it and use it and improve upon it and change it. And that's what you're seeing over and over and over as people are iterating constantly through all these different things. So you see some very similar kinds of things. This is Radium's info page. Radium's a little bit different. And then you see some who go full on with their whole chain. And this is, you see again, that's 10 numbers. So that's $2 billion basically locked. And this 24-hour volume is one of the things you also want to look for decentralized exchanges is how much volume they're doing. And this is, that's the number, right? And you can see here, Radium is again the same kind of thing as the others, right? It's, you have your pools, and this is the pool, this is how much is in the pool. So this is, these are some of the bigger pools. And you can see really out of that $2 million, here's almost half of it, right? Here's 5, 7, 8, 9. And that's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pools are half of the value locked. Now, there's a ton of other stuff here, right? These are decentralized exchanges. One of the advantage is that they're decentralized. There's no really in control of them. So many of these you'll see voting and governance. We'll get into the specifics of each one, but things with decentralized smart contracts and virtual machines, particularly all the Ethereum-based virtual machines, and this is PancakeSwap. This is the Binance Smart Chain's big dog. And again, here's the numbers, right? And that's $5.36 billion locked, and with a daily volume of $1 billion in trade. That's a day. It's $1 billion a day. And this, you can see here, they have their top tokens here. Various, SafeMoon's doing it again. Sorry. We'll talk about some of this stuff later, but anyway, these are all the decentralized exchanges, and they're all very similar. They all have, if you don't see an info page and it doesn't seem accurate, it doesn't seem right. QuickSwap is one of the bigger ones for the Matic, and you see here, over the last month and a half, it's lost, $300 billion worth of value, locked, right? Some of this has to do with the price of the core token. You can see here that the highest token actually wrapped on QuickSwap is wrapped Ether, and this is where it acts as a level 2 for the Ethereum network. So that seems to be a pretty good rounding up of decentralized exchanges, kind of an overview of what you're looking at. Osmosis, by the way, is a little bit different. This is the one built on Atom and the Cosmos SDK. They have now, what do we got here? They just keep adding stuff. IXO, two more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is actually 15 sovereign blockchains. Each one of these, Regen, Akash, Sentinel, is its own blockchain. That's different than on here, say on SpookySwap. This is all built on Phantom, right? This is, everything here is a token on the Phantom network. Osmosis, Akash has a token, or is a coin, right? Regen's a coin, Deviant, they all are used to pay gas fees on their own network, which this is a really good time. I've mentioned this term a lot. So, gas fees. What's going on with computer networks and what's going on with cryptocurrencies when you do things?